The morning bell rang through the halls of Lincoln High School. Students rushed to their lockers, laughing and talking with their friends. But one girl walked slowly, keeping her eyes on the floor. She was 14 years old with long brown hair that fell across her face like a curtain. She wore an old gray sweater that was too big for her and carried a worn blue backpack that had seen better days. Her name was Sarah, and she hated mornings at school. Actually, she hated most of her time at school. It had been like this for almost 6 months now. Every single day felt the same. Every single day she had to walk these halls and hope that he would not see her. He was a senior named Tyler. He was tall and strong, with short blonde hair and a mean smile that never reached his eyes. Tyler had been bullying younger kids since he started high school, but this year he seemed worse than ever. He had a group of friends who followed him everywhere, laughing at his jokes and helping him pick on anyone who seemed weak or different. Sarah had become his favorite target. It started small at first. He would bump into her in the hallway and not say sorry. Then he started calling her names when she walked past. Then he began taking her things, her pencils, her homework, even her lunch sometimes. His friends would film it on their phones and laugh. Other students would watch, but nobody ever helped her. She told herself every morning that today would be different. Today she would be brave. Today she would stand up to him. But when she actually saw Tyler in the halls, her courage disappeared like smoke. Her hands would shake. Her stomach would feel sick. Her voice would not work. So she would just let him do whatever he wanted and hope it would end quickly. Today was Tuesday, and Sarah had a bad feeling from the moment she woke up. She almost told her mom she was sick so she could stay home. But her mom was working 2 jobs and did not have time to stay with her. Her dad lived in another state and she only saw him during summer break. So Sarah got dressed, ate a quick breakfast, and walked to school like she did every day. The first 3 classes went okay. Tyler was not in any of those classes, so Sarah could relax a little bit. She sat in the back of each room and did her work quietly. She was actually a good student when she could focus. Math was her favorite subject because there was always a right answer. You could not bully numbers. But then came lunch period and Sarah's stomach started to hurt. Lunch was always the worst time. The cafeteria was crowded and loud, and Tyler was always there with his friends. They sat at a big table near the windows and watched everyone who walked by. Sarah had learned to take a longer path to avoid them, walking along the far wall and keeping her head down. Today she grabbed her lunch from her locker. Her mom had packed her a sandwich, an apple, and some cookies. Sarah planned to eat quickly and then go to the library where it was safer. She just had to make it through the cafeteria without being noticed. She pushed open the double doors and stepped inside. The noise hit her like a wave. Hundreds of students talking, laughing, and eating. Trays clattering, chairs scraping against the floor. Sarah took a deep breath and started walking along the far wall, just like she always did. She was halfway across the cafeteria when she heard the voice she dreaded most. "Hey, look who it is." Sarah's heart dropped. She did not look up. She just kept walking, faster now, hoping maybe he would leave her alone this time. But she heard footsteps behind her. And then suddenly Tyler was right in front of her, blocking her path. His 3 friends surrounded her on the other sides. "Where are you going so fast?" Tyler asked. His voice was loud enough that other students nearby started to notice. Some of them turned to watch. Others pulled out their phones. "Please, I just want to go to the library," Sarah said quietly. Her voice came out shaky and small. "The library?" Tyler laughed. "What's wrong with eating here with everyone else?" "Oh wait, I know. Nobody wants to sit with you." His friends laughed. Sarah felt her face get hot. She tried to step around him, but he moved to block her again. "Hold on, I'm not done talking to you," he said. Then his eyes landed on her backpack. "What's in the bag today? Anything good?" "Nothing," Sarah said. "Please just let me go." But Tyler was already reaching for her backpack. Sarah tried to hold on to it, but he was much stronger than her. He grabbed the strap and pulled hard. The backpack slipped off her shoulders and Sarah stumbled forward, almost falling. "Stop it," she said louder this time. But her voice was drowned out by the laughter of Tyler's friends. Tyler held the backpack over his head like a trophy. More students were watching now. Sarah could see phones pointed in her direction, recording everything. She felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she did not want to cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. "Let's see what we've got," Tyler said. He unzipped the backpack and dumped everything out onto the floor. Books scattered everywhere. Papers flew in different directions. Her lunch spilled out and the sandwich fell apart on the dirty cafeteria floor. The apple rolled away under a nearby table. Sarah dropped to her knees and started trying to pick everything up. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold anything. She could hear students laughing. She could hear Tyler making jokes about her old books and cheap clothes. His friends were encouraging him, telling him to keep going. This was the worst it had ever been. Usually Tyler just took one or two things and then left her alone. But today he seemed angrier than usual. Maybe he had gotten in trouble at home. Maybe he was having a bad day. It did not matter why. All that mattered was that Sarah was his target, and there was nothing she could do about it. She gathered her books into a messy pile, but she could not reach her backpack because Tyler was still holding it. He was going through the pockets now, pulling out her pens and pencils and tossing them on the floor. He found her phone and held it up. "This thing is ancient," he said. "What is this, from like 2015? More laughter. Sarah felt completely helpless. She looked around desperately, hoping maybe a teacher would walk by, hoping maybe another student would tell Tyler to stop. But the teachers were all in the lunch line or in their classrooms. And the other students just watched like this was entertainment. Sarah stayed on her knees, surrounded by her scattered belongings, feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. She wished she could disappear. She wished she had never come to school today. She wished she was brave enough to stand up and tell Tyler exactly what she thought of him. But she was not brave. She was just a scared 14-year-old girl who wanted this nightmare to end. She closed her eyes and waited for it to be over, hoping Tyler would get bored soon and move on to someone else. She had no idea that everything was about to change. She had no idea that at that exact moment, someone was walking through those cafeteria doors who would change her life forever. Tyler was laughing so hard he had to wipe tears from his eyes. He was having too much fun tormenting Sarah. His friends were recording everything on their phones, and Tyler loved being the center of attention. He held Sarah's old phone in one hand and her backpack in the other, waving them around like prizes. "Maybe I should just keep this bag," Tyler said. "It's not like you need it anyway. You probably don't even do your homework." Sarah was still on her knees trying to gather her books with shaking hands. Tears were running down her face now, but she kept her head down so nobody could see. She just wanted this to be over. She just wanted to disappear into the floor. The crowd of students around them was getting bigger. More phones came out. More people laughed and pointed. Some students looked uncomfortable, but nobody did anything to help. That was how it always went. Everyone was too afraid of becoming Tyler's next target. Tyler opened one of the pockets on Sarah's backpack and pulled out a small notebook. It was her personal journal, where she wrote down her thoughts and feelings. She had been keeping it since the bullying started because her school counselor said writing might help. "Oh, what's this?" Tyler said, flipping it open. "Does someone keep a diary?" "No, please," Sarah said, her voice breaking. She reached up for the notebook, but Tyler just held it higher. "Dear Diary," Tyler started reading in a mocking voice. Today was another bad day. Tyler and his friends? That was when everything changed. A deep voice cut through the noise of the cafeteria like a knife through butter. It was quiet, but somehow everyone heard it clearly. "I think you dropped something." The voice came from right behind Tyler. It was so close that Tyler jumped a little bit. The laughter around them died instantly. Tyler's friends stopped recording. The whole cafeteria seemed to go silent all at once. Sarah looked up from the floor, confused. She saw Tyler's face change from confident and mean to shocked and scared in less than a second. His mouth fell open. The notebook slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. Slowly, Tyler turned around. And standing directly behind him, close enough to touch, was a man who looked like he had stepped right out of a movie screen. He was tall and muscular, wearing dark jeans and a simple black shirt. His arms were crossed over his broad chest. His head was shaved smooth and he had a neat beard. But it was his eyes that really got everyone's attention. They were looking straight at Tyler with an intensity that made the bully take a step backward. Sarah could not believe what she was seeing. She recognized this man immediately. Everyone in America would recognize him. It was Vin Diesel, the famous actor, the star of the Fast and Furious movies, the voice of Groot in the Marvel films. A real celebrity was standing right there in her school cafeteria. But what was he doing here? Why was he at Lincoln High School? Tyler's face had gone completely white. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. He still held Sarah's backpack in one hand, but his arm had dropped to his side. His friends had backed away, trying to blend into the crowd. Nobody was laughing anymore. Vin Diesel did not raise his voice. He did not have to. His physical presence alone was enough to make Tyler look small and weak. He kept his arms crossed and just stared at the bully with those intense eyes. "That bag you're holding," Vin said calmly. "It doesn't belong to you." Tyler looked down at the backpack like he had forgotten he was holding it. You were just what?" Vin asked. His voice was still quiet, but there was steel in it. "You were just taking things that don't belong to you? You were just bullying someone half your size? You were just entertaining your friends by making someone else feel terrible?" The cafeteria was so quiet that Sarah could hear her own heartbeat. She was still on the floor, surrounded by her scattered books and papers, but she had stopped trying to pick them up. She just stared at this unexpected hero who had appeared out of nowhere. Vin looked around at all the students watching with their phones out. "Put those away," he said. It was not a request. Students immediately lowered their phones and put them in their pockets. Then Vin did something that surprised everyone. He knelt down right there on the dirty cafeteria floor, next to Sarah and her scattered belongings. He was now at eye level with her, and his expression softened when he looked at her tear-stained face. "Hey," he said gently. "Are you okay?" Sarah could not speak. She just shook her head no. Fresh tears ran down her cheeks. Vin nodded like he understood. Then he started picking up her books, carefully gathering each one and checking for damage. He found her sandwich that had fallen apart and put it back in its plastic bag. He crawled under a nearby table to retrieve her apple, which had rolled away during the chaos. The whole cafeteria watched in amazement as this famous action star, worth millions of dollars, got down on his hands and knees to help a bullied high school girl pick up her lunch. Tyler was still standing there, frozen, still holding the backpack. He looked like he wanted to run away, but his legs would not move. His friends had completely disappeared into the crowd now, pretending they had never been part of this. After gathering all of Sarah's things into a neat pile, Vin stood back up to his full height. He reached down and offered his hand to Sarah. She hesitated for just a second, then took it. His hand was warm and strong, and he pulled her gently to her feet. Sarah stood there, face to face with Vin Diesel, still not quite believing this was real. Maybe she had hit her head when Tyler pushed her. Maybe this was all a dream. But no, this was definitely happening. Vin Diesel was really here, and he was really helping her. Vin looked back at Tyler, who was still standing there like a statue. The actor's expression changed. The gentleness he had shown Sarah was gone. Now he looked stern and disappointed, like a father catching his son doing something wrong. "The backpack," Vin said, holding out his hand. Tyler immediately thrust the backpack toward him like it was on fire. Vin took it and handed it carefully to Sarah, making sure she had a good grip on it before letting go. "Now," Vin said, turning his full attention back to Tyler. "Let's talk about what just happened here, because I saw everything. I walked in right as you were dumping this young lady's belongings all over the floor. I heard you making fun of her phone and threatening to keep her backpack. I saw you reading from her private journal in front of everyone." Tyler's face somehow got even paler. It was just what?" Vin asked. "Just a joke? Just having fun? Just being boys? Which excuse are you going to use?" Tyler could not answer. He just stood there looking at his shoes. Vin stepped closer to him. He was not threatening or aggressive, but Tyler still flinched. "Let me tell you something about strength," Vin said. His voice carried across the entire cafeteria. Every single student was listening. Real strength is not about how big you are or how many friends you have backing you up. Real strength is not about making other people feel small so you can feel big. He paused, letting his words sink in. Real strength is about standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. It's about using whatever power you have to make the world better, not worse. It's about protecting people, not hurting them. Tyler was trembling now. Sarah could see his hands shaking. All his confidence was gone. Without his friends around him, without someone weaker to pick on, Tyler looked like exactly what he was. A scared kid who had been using bullying to cover up his own problems. "You have two choices right now," Vin continued. "Choice number one is you apologize to this young lady right here, right now, in front of everyone. You promise to leave her alone from now on, and you mean it. You start thinking about the kind of person you want to be." Tyler nodded quickly. "Okay, yes, I'm not finished," Vin said. Choice number 2 is I walk down to your principal's office right now, and we have a much longer conversation. A conversation that will probably include your parents, school security footage, and a discussion about why a celebrity had to visit your school and personally intervene in your behavior. Which would you prefer? The first one, Tyler said immediately. His voice came out as barely a whisper. Please. The first choice. Vin stepped aside and gestured to Sarah. Then I suggest you get started. Tyler finally looked at Sarah. Really looked at her. For the first time, he seemed to see her as an actual person instead of just a target. Sarah saw something in his eyes that might have been guilt or shame or fear. Probably all three. Tyler stood in front of Sarah, and for the first time in 6 months, he looked small. His shoulders were hunched forward. His hands fidgeted nervously at his sides. He could not look her in the eye. The whole cafeteria watched in complete silence. No one moved. No one even seemed to breathe. I'm sorry, Tyler mumbled, his voice so quiet that Sarah could barely hear him. Vin Diesel crossed his arms. I don't think she heard you. Neither did anyone else. Try again, and this time mean it. Tyler's face turned red. He cleared his throat and looked up at Sarah, though his eyes still would not quite meet hers. I'm sorry, he said louder. For everything. For taking your stuff. For making fun of you. For being mean to you all the time. Sarah did not know what to say. She had imagined this moment so many times, but in her imagination, she always had some powerful response ready. She would tell Tyler exactly how he made her feel. She would make him understand the pain he had caused. But now that it was actually happening, no words would come out. She just stood there, holding her backpack close to her chest. Vin put a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. You don't have to accept his apology right now if you're not ready, he said softly, speaking only to her. That's your choice to make when you're ready. Sarah looked up at the famous actor who had somehow appeared at exactly the right moment. She saw kindness in his eyes and something else too, understanding, like he knew exactly how she felt. She turned back to Tyler and gave a small nod. She was not ready to forgive him yet. Maybe she never would be. But she could accept that he had apologized, and that was a start. Vin looked around the cafeteria at all the watching students. Does anyone else here have something they want to say? Anyone else who's been part of this? Anyone who laughed or filmed or encouraged it? Several students suddenly became very interested in their shoes. Tyler's friends had vanished completely into the crowd. No one volunteered to speak up. That's what I thought, Vin said. He did not sound angry, just disappointed. You know, bullying doesn't just happen because of one person being mean. It happens because other people let it happen. Because people stand by and watch and do nothing. Because people pull out their phones to record instead of stepping in to help. He let that sink in for a moment. The silence in the cafeteria was heavy and uncomfortable. Students shifted their weight and avoided eye contact. Every single person who watched this happen and did nothing is part of the problem, Vin continued. Every person who laughed or shared a video or encouraged it. You're all responsible, and you all need to think about what kind of person you want to be. A girl near the front of the crowd raised her hand nervously. She was in Sarah's grade, a quiet girl with glasses who kept to herself. I'm sorry too, she said. Her voice shook. I saw things happen before and I never said anything. I was afraid if I helped, he would start picking on me. Several other students nodded. They understood that fear perfectly. That's honest, Vin said. And I get it. Fear is powerful. But you know what's more powerful? Courage. Speaking up even when you're scared. Standing together instead of standing alone. He turned to Tyler again. You're going to leave her alone from now on. Completely alone. No more comments in the hallway. No more taking her things. No more making fun of her. And if I hear that you've started picking on someone else instead, trust me, I'll hear about it. I've got friends at this school now. Tyler nodded quickly. I won't, I promise. I'll leave everyone alone. Good, Vin said. Now I think you should head to the principal's office anyway. Not because you're in trouble, but because you need to have a conversation with him about getting some help. About figuring out why you felt the need to hurt other people. Will you do that? Tyler looked surprised that he had a choice. Yes, I'll go right now. I'll walk with you, said a voice from the crowd. A teacher had appeared, a young man who taught history. He had been watching from the doorway. Come on, Tyler. Let's go talk to Principal Martinez. Tyler followed the teacher out of the cafeteria, looking smaller than Sarah had ever seen him. As the doors closed behind them, the spell seemed to break. Students started whispering to each other. Some looked ashamed. Others looked thoughtful. A few were wiping tears from their eyes. Vin knelt down next to Sarah again. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I still can't believe you're really here," Sarah said. Her voice was hoarse from trying not to cry. "How are you here?" "Why are you here?" Vin smiled and his whole face changed. The stern expression was gone, replaced by warmth. "I'm doing a tour of schools across the country. It's an anti-bullying campaign. We visit schools and talk to kids about respect and kindness and standing up for each other. Lincoln High was on my schedule for today, but I wasn't supposed to arrive until 7th period. I got here early and heard there was some trouble in the cafeteria. So you just walked in," Sarah said, amazed. "I just walked in," Vin confirmed. "I saw what was happening and I knew I had to do something. Nobody deserves to be treated the way you were being treated." Sarah felt fresh tears coming, but this time they were different. Not tears of humiliation or fear. These were tears of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means to me." "I think I do," Vin said gently. "Can I tell you something? When I was your age, I got bullied too. I was different from the other kids. I didn't fit in. I was awkward and shy, and I got picked on a lot." Sarah's eyes went wide. "You, but you're so what? Strong, famous, confident?" Vin shook his head. "That all came later. When I was 14, I was just a scared kid who wanted to disappear. I know exactly how you're feeling right now." Other students were gathering closer now, listening to Vin talk. The fear and tension in the cafeteria was slowly being replaced by curiosity and interest. "What changed?" asked a boy from Sarah's math class. "How did you go from being bullied to being, you?" Vin stood up and looked around at all the young faces watching him. "Lots of things changed. I found activities I was good at. I started working out, which helped me feel stronger physically and mentally. I found good friends who supported me. I discovered acting, which gave me a way to express myself." He paused. "But the biggest change was in how I thought about myself. I realized that the way people treated me said more about them than it did about me. I realized that I had value, even if some people couldn't see it. I learned that being different wasn't a weakness. It was actually my strength." Sarah listened carefully to every word. She wanted to remember this moment forever. She wanted to remember how it felt to have someone powerful stand up for her, someone who understood. "Is it okay if I ask you something?" Sarah said quietly. "Anything," Vin replied. "Would you be willing to talk to me and some other students? Other kids who have been bullied? I think it would really help them to hear your story." Vin's smile got even bigger. "I would love that. That's exactly why I'm here. In fact, why don't we make that happen right now? Is there somewhere we could go? A classroom or the library, maybe?" A woman's voice spoke up from near the cafeteria entrance. "We could use the library conference room." Everyone turned to see Principal Martinez standing there with the history teacher. Tyler was not with them anymore. The principal was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She looked both concerned and impressed. "Mr. Diesel," she said, walking over and extending her hand. "I'm Principal Martinez. I had no idea you would be arriving early. I was planning to meet you at the front office in an hour." Vin shook her hand. "Sorry about that. I had a feeling I should get here sooner. Looks like my instincts were right." "Looks like they were," the principal agreed. She looked at Sarah with gentle concern. "Are you all right, Sarah?" Sarah nodded. She was still holding her backpack tightly, but she felt different now. Safer. Stronger. "I'd like to invite some students to join us in the library," Vin said to Principal Martinez. "Students who have dealt with bullying. I think we could have an important conversation." "I think that's an excellent idea," the principal said. "Let me make some calls." Within 30 minutes, the library conference room was full. Sarah sat near the front, still feeling a bit shaky but also excited. Around her were about 15 other students. Some she recognized from her classes. Others were older or younger, kids she had seen in the hallways but never talked to. They all had one thing in common. They all knew what it felt like to be bullied. Principal Martinez had worked quickly, sending messages to teachers and counselors. The guidance counselor, Mrs. Chen, knew exactly which students needed this conversation. She had quietly pulled them from their classes, explaining that something special was happening in the library. The conference room had a big table in the center with chairs all around it, but Vin had asked to move the table to the side. Instead, The chairs were arranged in a circle so everyone could see each other. It felt less like a classroom and more like a group of people just sitting together to talk. Vin sat in one of the chairs like he was just another student. He was not standing at the front of the room or sitting behind a desk. He was part of the circle, equal to everyone else. Principal Martinez and Mrs. Chen sat quietly in the back corner, letting Vin lead the conversation. "Thank you all for coming," Vin started. His voice was warm and friendly, completely different from the stern tone he had used with Tyler. "I know some of you were pulled out of class and you might be wondering what this is all about. The truth is, I wanted to talk to you, not as a celebrity or a movie star, just as someone who has been where you are." A boy near Sarah shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He was small for his age, probably a freshman with messy red hair and freckles. "You mean you got bullied?" "Really?" "Really," Vin said. "When I was young, I got picked on constantly. Kids made fun of my voice because it was different. They made fun of the way I looked. They made fun of my interests and my family. Some days I dreaded going to school so much that I would pretend to be sick." Sarah felt a connection forming between everyone in the circle. These were kids who normally never talked to each other, but they all understood that feeling. That heavy dread in your stomach when you wake up knowing you have to go to school and face your bullies again. "What did you do about it?" asked a girl with long black hair pulled back in a ponytail. Sarah recognized her from the soccer team. She looked tough and athletic, not like someone who would get bullied, but pain showed in her eyes. "At first I did nothing," Vin admitted. "I just tried to survive each day. I tried to make myself invisible. I thought if I could just keep my head down and not draw attention, maybe they would leave me alone. But that didn't work. Bullies don't usually leave you alone just because you ignore them." Several students nodded. They knew that lesson all too well. "Then I went through a phase where I got angry," Vin continued. "I wanted to fight back. I wanted to hurt the people who were hurting me. I got into some trouble during those years. I made some bad choices because I was so full of anger and pain." "Did you ever fight them?" the red-haired boy asked. "Once or twice," Vin said honestly. "And you know what I learned? Fighting didn't make me feel better. It didn't solve the problem. It just got me in trouble and gave the bullies more ammunition to use against me. Violence is almost never the answer." Sarah was surprised by how honest Vin was being. He was not pretending his life had been perfect. He was sharing his real struggles and real mistakes. It made him seem more human, more real, more like someone who really understood. "So what did work?" Sarah heard herself ask. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. She had been silent for so long, afraid to speak up in groups, but something about this circle felt safe. Vin looked directly at her and smiled. "A lot of different things. First, I found adults I could trust, a teacher who believed in me, a coach who saw potential in me. They reminded me that I had value even when I felt worthless." Mrs. Chen spoke up from the back of the room. "That's one reason we're all here. We want you to know that the adults in this school see you. We care about what you're going through. You don't have to face this alone." "Second," Vin continued, "I found activities that made me feel strong and capable. For me, it was weightlifting and acting. When I was in the gym or on stage, I was in control. I was good at something. It reminded me that I was more than just a victim." "But what if you're not good at anything?" a quiet voice asked. Sarah looked over and saw a girl she did not recognize. She looked like she was about 13, with short blonde hair and braces. She was hunched over in her chair like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. "I don't believe that," Vin said gently. "Everyone is good at something. Maybe you just haven't found your thing yet. Maybe it's art or music or writing or math or video games or taking care of animals. It doesn't have to be something big or impressive. It just has to be something that makes you feel like yourself." The girl with the ponytail raised her hand. "Can I say something?" "Of course," Vin said. "This is a safe space. Anyone can share anything they want." The girl took a deep breath. "My name is Jessica, and I'm on the soccer team. Everyone thinks athletes can't get bullied because we're supposed to be tough. But I get bullied every single day by my teammates. They make fun of my weight. They say I'm too fat to play soccer. They exclude me from everything outside of practice. It's been going on for 2 years." Sarah's eyes went wide. She had no idea Jessica was dealing with that. Jessica always seemed so confident on the field. "That's terrible," Vin said. His voice was full of sympathy. "And it shows that bullying can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter how strong you are or how tough you look. Bullies find ways to hurt anyone who seems different or vulnerable. Jessica wiped her eyes. The worst part is that I love soccer. It's my favorite thing in the world. But they're making me hate it. I've thought about quitting. Please don't quit, said another voice. The red-haired boy was looking at Jessica. I had to quit the robotics club because of bullying. It was my favorite thing too, but I couldn't handle being around them anymore. Now I have nothing. Don't make the same mistake I did. What's your name? Vin asked the boy. Danny, he replied. Danny, why did you have to quit? Why couldn't you stay in robotics? Because they were all there, Danny said. The kids who bullied me. They were all in the club. They made every meeting miserable. They sabotaged my projects. They told everyone I was weird and nobody should partner with me. Vin nodded thoughtfully. Did you tell anyone? An adult, the club advisor? Danny shook his head. I didn't think anyone would believe me. And I didn't want to be a snitch, that word snitch, Vin said. Bullies love that word because it keeps victims quiet. They make you think that asking for help is weak or wrong, but it's not. Asking for help is one of the bravest things you can do. Principal Martinez spoke up again. Danny, I wish you had come to me. I wish you had told Mr. Peterson, the robotics advisor. We could have done something. We can still do something if you want to come back. Danny looked surprised. Really, I could come back? If you want to, yes, Principal Martinez said firmly. And if those students give you any trouble, they'll answer to me. Hope flickered across Danny's face. It was the first time Sarah had seen him smile since entering the room. Other students started sharing their stories too. A boy named James talked about being bullied for having dyslexia. A girl named Maria described being excluded by her former best friends for no reason she could understand. A sophomore named Alex talked about being bullied for being too smart and always knowing the answers in class. Each story was different, but they all had the same theme. Feeling alone. Feeling helpless. Feeling like nobody cared or understood. Sarah listened to each person and realized she had never felt less alone in her life. All these people understood exactly what she was going through. When there was a pause in the sharing, Vin spoke again. I want to tell you something important. Something I wish someone had told me when I was your age. Everyone leaned forward, listening carefully. The way people treat you is not a reflection of your worth, Vin said slowly, emphasizing each word. The bullies who hurt you, who make you feel small, who try to break you down, they are acting out their own pain and insecurity. Happy, confident, secure people do not hurt others for fun. They just don't. Sarah thought about Tyler. She had always assumed he picked on her because she was weak or different or deserved it somehow. But what if Vin was right? What if Tyler was dealing with his own problems? That doesn't excuse what they do, Vin continued. Bad behavior is still bad behavior no matter what causes it. But understanding this can help you not take it so personally. Their cruelty says everything about them and nothing about you. Sarah walked home from school that day feeling different, lighter somehow. Like a weight she had been carrying for months had gotten just a little bit smaller. The afternoon session with Vin Diesel had gone on for almost 2 hours. They had talked and shared and even laughed a few times. Before leaving, Vin had given each student his email address and promised to stay in touch. When Sarah got home, her mom was already there, which was unusual. She normally worked until 6 o'clock at her second job, but today she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, and she had a strange expression on her face. Sarah, her mom said as soon as she walked through the door, why didn't you tell me what's been happening at school? Sarah's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Her mom turned the laptop around. On the screen was a video. Sarah recognized it immediately. It was from the cafeteria. Someone had filmed Tyler grabbing her backpack and dumping everything on the floor. The video showed her on her knees crying, trying to pick up her belongings. Then it showed Vin Diesel appearing behind Tyler. Mom, I can explain, Sarah started, but her mother held up her hand. This video has been viewed 3 million times, her mom said. Her voice was shaking. 3 million times, Sarah. And you never told me you were being bullied this badly. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes again. I didn't want you to worry. You work so hard and you're always tired, and I didn't want to add to your stress. Her mom came around the table and pulled Sarah into a tight hug. Baby, nothing is more important to me than you. Nothing, do you understand? I would rather know what's happening, even if it's hard, than have you suffering in silence. They sat down together and Sarah told her mom everything. All the months of bullying. All the times Tyler had taken her things or called her names or made her feel small. All the days she had wanted to stay home but forced herself to go to school. Everything came pouring out. While they talked, Sarah's mom showed her more videos and articles that were spreading across the internet. Multiple students had recorded the incident in the cafeteria from different angles. The videos showed everything: Tyler's cruelty, Sarah's pain, and Vin Diesel's powerful intervention. News websites had picked up the story within hours. Action star stops real-life bully, read one headline. Vin Diesel defends student in school cafeteria, said another. Fast and Furious star shows real courage at high school, declared a third. But it was not just news sites. The story was everywhere. On social media platforms, millions of people were sharing the video. The comment section was flooded with support for Sarah and praise for Vin. People from all over the world were sending messages. That brave girl deserves so much better, one comment read. Vin Diesel is a real hero for this, said another. I was bullied in school too. I wish someone had stood up for me like this, wrote someone else. Thousands of people were sharing their own bullying stories in response to the video. Parents were talking about their children's experiences. Teachers were discussing how to handle bullying better. Anti-bullying organizations were using the video to start conversations about school safety. By the time Sarah went to bed that night, the original video had been viewed over 10 million times. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. Friends she had not talked to in years were reaching out. Distant relatives were calling to check on her. Even her dad, who she only spoke to a few times a year, called to make sure she was okay. Sarah could not sleep. She lay in bed scrolling through the messages and comments. Most were supportive and kind. People were calling her brave. They were saying she did not deserve to be treated that way. They were thanking her for bringing attention to the problem of bullying. But there were also negative comments. Some people said the video was staged or fake. Others said she should have fought back instead of just taking the abuse. A few people even blamed her, saying she must have done something to provoke Tyler. Those comments stung, but Sarah tried to remember what Vin had said. What people say about you says more about them than it does about you. The cruel comments came from people who did not know her and did not matter. The supportive messages came from people who understood. The next morning, Sarah's mom drove her to school instead of making her take the bus. Are you sure you want to go today? Her mom asked. You could stay home. No one would blame you. Sarah thought about it. Part of her wanted to hide in her room and avoid everything. But another part, a braver part, knew she needed to face this. I want to go, she said. I can't hide forever. Walking into school that morning was surreal. Everyone stared at her. Some students pointed and whispered. Others came up to tell her they had seen the video and thought she was brave. A few kids apologized for not helping when they saw her being bullied. In her first period class, the teacher, Mr. Harrison, stopped the lesson to address what had happened. I know everyone has seen the video by now, he said, and I want to say something to all of you. What happened to Sarah in that cafeteria happens to students in this school every single day. We see it, we know it's happening, and we need to do better. Several students nodded in agreement. From now on, this classroom is a safe space, Mr. Harrison continued. If anyone sees bullying happening, I want you to tell me. If anyone experiences bullying, my door is always open. And if anyone is struggling, please know that you're not alone. Sarah felt tears forming again, but this time they were good tears. The video going viral had been scary and overwhelming, but it was also opening doors. It was starting conversations that needed to happen. At lunch, Sarah was nervous about going to the cafeteria. That was where it had all happened. But when she walked through those doors, something unexpected occurred. A group of students she did not know very well waved her over to their table. Jessica, the soccer player from the meeting with Vin, was there. So was Danny, the red-haired boy from robotics. We saved you a seat, Jessica said with a smile. Sarah sat down with them, and for the first time in months, she ate lunch with friends. They talked about normal things, homework and weekend plans and funny videos they had seen online. Nobody mentioned Tyler or the bullying or the viral video unless Sarah brought it up. Tyler was not in the cafeteria. Sarah heard from another student that he had been suspended for a week. When he came back, he would have to attend mandatory counseling sessions and perform community service. His parents had been called in for multiple meetings with the principal. The video kept spreading throughout the day. By that afternoon, it had reached 20 million views. News programs were covering it. Morning talk shows were discussing it. Child psychologists were being interviewed about the impacts of bullying. Politicians were talking about needing better anti-bullying laws. Vin Diesel himself posted about it on his social media accounts. He shared one of the videos with a long caption. "Yesterday I witnessed something that happens too often in schools across this country," he wrote. "A young person being targeted and hurt by someone who should be their peer. But I also witnessed something beautiful. When we stood up for her, when we showed her she mattered, I saw strength emerge that had always been there. Sarah and all the students I met yesterday are heroes. They survive every day in difficult situations and still show up. Still try. Still hope. That's real courage. To everyone reading this, if you see bullying happening, speak up. Be the person who makes a difference. Be the person I tried to be yesterday." The post got millions of likes and shares within hours. Vin had tagged Lincoln High School and included information about anti-bullying resources. Organizations dedicated to fighting bullying saw huge spikes in donations and volunteer applications. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly with messages. The local news wanted to interview her. National news networks were calling the school. Anti-bullying organizations wanted her to speak at events. It was all too much, too fast. That evening, Principal Martinez called Sarah and her mom into a meeting. Mrs. Chen, the guidance counselor, was there too. They sat in the principal's office, which felt much less scary than Sarah had imagined. "Sarah, I want you to know that you have a choice in all of this," Principal Martinez said. "The media attention, the interviews, the requests. You don't have to do any of it if you don't want to. Your privacy and your well-being come first. But," Mrs. Chen added gently, "if you do want to use your platform to help others, we will support you. A lot of students are reaching out to us saying they're inspired by your story. They're finding courage to speak up about their own experiences." Sarah looked at her mom, who squeezed her hand. "It's up to you, baby. Whatever you decide, I'm with you." Sarah thought about all the messages she had received. All the people who said her story helped them feel less alone. All the kids who were dealing with the same things she had dealt with. She thought about Danny and Jessica and all the other students in that circle with Vin Diesel. She thought about how powerful it felt to share her story in a safe space. "I want to help," Sarah said. "Not because I want to be famous or anything like that. But if my story can help even one person feel less alone, then it was worth it." 3 weeks had passed since the cafeteria incident, and Lincoln High School felt like a different place. Principal Martinez had called an emergency school assembly the Monday after the video went viral. She stood on the auditorium stage and addressed every single student. "What happened in our cafeteria was unacceptable," she had said, her voice firm and clear. "But it was not an isolated incident. Bullying has been happening in this school for far too long, and I take responsibility for not addressing it sooner. That changes today." She announced a series of new policies. There would be mandatory anti-bullying workshops for all students. Teachers would receive training on how to recognize and respond to bullying. A new reporting system would be put in place so students could report incidents anonymously. Most importantly, there would be real consequences for bullies, starting with suspension and escalating from there. "This school should be a safe place for everyone," Principal Martinez declared. "If you see something, say something. If you experience something, tell someone. We are all responsible for creating the environment we want to learn in." The assembly also announced something else, a new support group for students who had experienced bullying. Mrs. Chen would lead it, and meetings would happen twice a week in the library conference room. Sarah was one of the founding members. The first meeting had only 7 students. By the third meeting, there were 20. Students came from all grades, all backgrounds, all social groups. Some had been bullied for years. Others were dealing with recent incidents. A few came because they had been bullies themselves and wanted to change. Sarah found herself speaking up in the group in ways she never had before. She shared her story multiple times, and each time it got a little easier. She listened to other people's experiences and offered support. She was discovering something surprising about herself. She was stronger than she thought. The worn blue backpack she carried became a symbol of sorts. Other students recognized it from the video. Sometimes people would stop her in the hallway just to tell her they admired her courage. At first, the attention made her uncomfortable. But gradually, Sarah learned to accept the kind words and use them as fuel to keep going. She also started taking a self-defense class on Saturday mornings. Her mom had suggested it, worried about Sarah's safety. But Sarah found she loved it for different reasons. It was not about learning to fight. It was about feeling confident in her own body, about knowing she could protect herself if needed, about standing tall instead of making herself small. The instructor, a woman named Coach Rita, was tough but encouraging.
Self-defense is 90% mental, she told the class.
It's about believing you have the right to take up space, believing you deserve to be safe, believing you're worth defending. Those words stuck with Sarah. She had spent so long trying to be invisible, trying not to take up space, trying to convince herself she did not matter enough to defend. Now she was learning different lessons. Her grades improved too. When she was not constantly worried about Tyler and his friends, Sarah could actually focus on her schoolwork. Math had always been her best subject, and her teacher, Mr. Patterson, noticed her improvement. "Sarah, have you thought about joining the math team?" he asked her one day after class. "We meet on Thursdays after school. I think you'd be great." The old Sarah would have said no immediately. The old Sarah would have been too scared to join anything, too worried about drawing attention to herself. But the new Sarah, the one who had survived the worst and come out stronger, surprised herself. "I'd like that," she said. "When can I start?" The math team welcomed her warmly. There were 8 students in total, a mix of grades and personalities. They practiced problem-solving together and competed in regional competitions. Sarah discovered she was not just good at math, she was really good. Good enough that Mr. Patterson started talking about scholarship opportunities for college. She made real friends too. Jessica from soccer became her closest companion. They had bonded during that meeting with Vin Diesel and stayed connected afterward. Jessica was dealing with her own challenges on the soccer team, but she was standing up for herself more now. She had reported the bullying to her coach, and 2 players had been removed from the team. "I kept thinking about what Vin said," Jessica told Sarah during lunch one day, "about how asking for help is brave, not weak. So I asked for help, and things actually got better." Danny had rejoined the robotics club and was thriving. He and Sarah were not close friends, but they would nod to each other in the hallways with understanding. They were part of the same club now, the club of survivors, the people who had faced their fears and kept going. Sarah's relationship with her mom had improved too. They talked more openly now. Her mom had reduced her hours at her second job so she could be home more often. Money was tighter, but as her mom said, no amount of money is worth missing what's happening in your life. They had dinner together most nights and actually talked about their days. Her mom shared stories from work. Sarah talked about school, about her new friends, about the support group. They laughed together more. They felt more like a team. Vin Diesel kept his promise too. He emailed Sarah every couple of weeks, checking in on her progress. Sometimes he would send motivational quotes. Other times he would share stories about his own life. Once he sent a video message that Sarah must have watched 50 times. "Hey Sarah," he said in the video, his warm smile filling the screen. "Just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I've been thinking about you and all the students I met that day. You guys inspire me. You really do. Remember, every day you show up and try, you're winning. Every day you choose courage over fear. You're making a difference. Keep going. I'm proud of you." Sarah had cried when she first watched it. Happy tears this time. She saved the video and watched it whenever she needed a reminder that she mattered. The biggest change at Lincoln High was the overall atmosphere. Students were more aware now. They looked out for each other more. When they saw someone sitting alone at lunch, they invited them over. When they noticed someone being picked on, they spoke up. It was not perfect. Bullying still happened sometimes, but it was better. Tyler came back to school after his suspension. Sarah had been nervous about seeing him again, worried he would be angry or try to get revenge. But when they passed each other in the hallway that first day, Tyler looked down at his shoes and walked quickly past. He looked smaller somehow, defeated. Sarah heard through the grapevine that Tyler was in counseling, both at school and outside of it. His parents had apparently been shocked to learn what he had been doing. They thought he was a good kid who never caused trouble. The video had been a wake-up call for them. A few weeks after Tyler's return, something unexpected happened. Sarah was at her locker between classes when she heard a quiet voice behind her. "Sarah?" She turned around and there was Tyler standing a few feet away. He looked nervous, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. His friends were nowhere in sight. Actually, Sarah realized she had not seen Tyler with those friends at all since he came back. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. Sarah's first instinct was to run, But she thought about everything she had learned over the past few weeks. She thought about Coach Rita saying she deserved to take up space. She thought about Vin Diesel's words about courage. She stood her ground. "Okay," she said carefully. "I know I already apologized in the cafeteria," Tyler said. He was speaking fast, like he had practiced this speech. "But I wanted to say it again in private, when there weren't cameras and celebrities and everyone watching. What I did to you was wrong, really wrong. I made your life miserable for months and you didn't deserve any of it." Sarah did not say anything. She just listened. "I've been going to therapy," Tyler continued, "talking about why I did what I did, and I'm learning that I was taking my own problems out on other people. My parents are going through a divorce. My dad expects me to be perfect at everything. I felt like I had no control over my own life, so I tried to control other people instead, by hurting them." He took a shaky breath. "That's not an excuse. There's no excuse for what I did, but I wanted you to know that it was never about you. You didn't do anything wrong. I was just a messed up person making bad choices." Sarah recognized the words Vin had spoken in their group session, about how bullies are acting out their own pain. She had thought about that a lot over the past few weeks. It did not make what Tyler did okay, but it helped her understand. "Thank you for saying that," Sarah said quietly. "I accept your apology." Tyler looked surprised, like he had expected her to yell at him or walk away. "Really?" "Really," Sarah said. "But accepting your apology doesn't mean we're friends. And it doesn't mean I've forgotten what happened. It just means I'm choosing to let go of the anger so I can move forward." Tyler nodded. "That's fair. That's more than fair. I hope someday I can prove that I'm different now. That I'm better than I was." He walked away, and Sarah stood at her locker feeling something she had not expected. Relief. Not because Tyler had apologized, though that helped, but because she realized she did not need his apology to be okay. She was already okay. She had been building her own strength, her own confidence, her own life. Tyler's opinion of her did not matter anymore. That night at the support group, Sarah shared what had happened with Tyler. The group had grown to over 30 students now. They met in a bigger room and sometimes had guest speakers. But the core mission remained the same, creating a safe space for students to share their experiences and support each other. "How did it feel?" Mrs. Chen asked. "When Tyler apologized?" Sarah thought carefully before answering. "It felt good to hear it. But the weird thing is, I realized I didn't need it as much as I thought I would. I've been doing okay without it. Building my own life, making my own choices, becoming my own person." Several students nodded in understanding. They were all on similar journeys. 6 months after the cafeteria incident, Sarah barely recognized her own life. She was not the same scared girl who used to walk the hallways with her head down, hoping to be invisible. She still carried the same worn blue backpack. But now it represented something different. Survival. Strength. The journey from victim to survivor to someone who could help others. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March when Sarah saw it happening. She was walking to math team practice, her mind on the competition coming up that weekend. The hallways were mostly empty because classes were still in session. That was why she heard the voices so clearly. "Give it back," a young voice pleaded. "Please, I need that." "What's the magic word?" Another voice taunted, followed by mean laughter. Sarah stopped walking. Her heart started beating faster, but not from fear this time, from recognition. She knew exactly what was happening around the corner near the gym. She had lived through that same scene too many times. She could keep walking. She could pretend she did not hear anything. Math team was waiting. She could tell a teacher. She could do lots of things that would be easier than getting involved. The old Sarah definitely would have kept walking, but Sarah was not that person anymore. She turned the corner and saw 3 8th-grade boys surrounding a smaller student. The smaller kid looked like he was maybe in 6th grade, tiny and thin with glasses that were too big for his face. One of the 8th graders was holding a book above his head, keeping it just out of reach while the younger boy jumped for it. "Hey," Sarah said firmly. Her voice did not shake. "What's going on here?" The 3 8th graders turned to look at her. She recognized one of them from her science class last year. His name was Brandon. He had never bullied her specifically, but she had seen him laugh at other people's pain. "Nothing that concerns you," Brandon said, but his voice was not as confident as his words. Sarah saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition. He knew who she was. Everyone in school knew who she was now. Actually, it does concern me, Sarah said, walking closer, because what you're doing to him is the same thing that was done to me. And I remember exactly how it feels. The smaller boy looked at Sarah with wide, desperate eyes. She could see tears on his cheeks. She could see the same hopeless expression she used to see in her own mirror. We were just messing around, one of the other boys said nervously. We weren't really going to keep his book. Then give it back, Sarah said. It was not a request. It was a demand. Brandon looked at his friends, then back at Sarah. She could see him weighing his options. He could push back, try to act tough, keep the book. But everyone had seen what happened when someone stood up to bullies. Everyone had seen that video of Vin Diesel. Brandon did not want to be the next Tyler. Whatever, Brandon muttered. He tossed the book at the younger boy, who caught it against his chest. Come on, let's go. The 3 8th graders walked away, trying to look casual but moving fast. Sarah watched them go, making sure they actually left. Then she turned to the younger boy. Are you okay? She asked gently. The boy wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Yeah, thanks, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Sarah said. What's your name? Michael, he said quietly. I'm in 6th grade. Hi, Michael. I'm Sarah. How long has this been going on? Michael looked down at his shoes. Since the beginning of the school year. Different kids, but it happens almost every day. They take my stuff, call me names, push me around. I'm too small to fight back. Sarah felt a familiar ache in her chest. She knew that feeling so well. Have you told anyone? A teacher? Your parents? The school counselor? Michael shook his head. I don't want to be a snitch. And I don't want to worry my parents. They already have enough to deal with. Sarah almost laughed, but not because it was funny. Because she had said those exact same words 6 months ago. She had thought those exact same thoughts. It was like looking at a mirror image of her past self. Can we sit down for a minute? Sarah asked. I want to tell you something. There was a bench nearby, one of those wooden ones placed along the hallway walls. They sat down and Sarah told Michael her story. Not all of it, but enough. She told him about Tyler and the months of bullying. She told him about feeling helpless and scared. She told him about the day Vin Diesel showed up. Michael's eyes got wider as she talked. That video, he said. That was you? I saw it. Everyone saw it. That was me, Sarah confirmed. And you know what I learned from all of that? Asking for help is not being a snitch. It's being smart. It's being brave. The people who want you to stay quiet are the people who want to keep hurting you. But what if it gets worse? Michael asked. What if they get mad that I told on them? There's always a risk, Sarah admitted. But I can tell you what definitely will happen if you don't tell anyone. It will continue. It might even get worse. The bullies will think they can do whatever they want because nobody stops them. She pulled out her phone. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk to Mrs. Chen's office right now. She's the guidance counselor and she's amazing. You're going to tell her everything that's been happening. Every incident you can remember. Every person who's been bothering you. Right now. Michael looked terrified. Right now, Sarah said firmly. And I'll stay with you the whole time if you want. You won't be alone. Michael thought about it for a long moment. Sarah could see the fear and doubt battling with hope on his face. Finally, he nodded. Okay, will you really stay with me? I promise, Sarah said. Come on. They walked to Mrs. Chen's office together. The counselor was between appointments and welcomed them in immediately. When she saw Sarah with a younger student who had clearly been crying, understanding crossed her face. Come in, both of you, Mrs. Chen said warmly. Have a seat. Tell me what's happening. With Sarah sitting next to him, Michael told his story. It all came pouring out. Names, dates, specific incidents. Things that had been happening in the hallways, in the locker room, on the bus. Mrs. Chen listened carefully, taking notes and asking clarifying questions. Michael, I'm so glad you came to me, Mrs. Chen said when he finished. What's been happening to you is serious and it's going to stop. I'm going to talk to Principal Martinez today. We're going to talk to your parents, and we're going to address this with the students who have been bothering you. What if they get mad? Michael asked again. They might be, Mrs. Chen said honestly, but they'll also face consequences. Detention, suspension, or worse depending on what they've done, and we'll be watching to make sure they don't retaliate. You did the right thing by telling me. She looked at Sarah with appreciation. Thank you for bringing him here. Thank you for looking out for him. Of course, Sarah said. She turned to Michael. You're going to be okay. It might take some time, but it gets better. I promise. Before they left, Sarah gave Michael her phone number. Text me anytime, she said. If something happens, if you're scared, if you just need someone to talk to. I'm here. Michael saved her number and gave her a small smile. It was the first time she had seen him smile since finding him in the hallway. Thank you, Sarah, really. Walking to math team practice after that, Sarah felt something powerful rising in her chest. Pride, purpose, meaning. This was why everything had happened. This was why the video went viral. This was why she had suffered through months of bullying, so that when she saw someone else going through the same thing, she would have the courage to step in. She was not just surviving anymore. She was thriving, and more than that, she was helping others thrive too. That evening, Sarah posted about the experience on social media. She did not use Michael's name or give specific details, but she shared the general story. She talked about seeing bullying happen and choosing to intervene. She talked about how everyone has the power to make a difference. The post got thousands of responses. People shared their own stories of standing up to bullies or wishing they had. Teachers commented saying they were proud of her. Anti-bullying organizations shared her post. And buried in the comments was one from Vin Diesel himself. That's my family right there, he wrote with a heart emoji. You've gone from needing protection to being the protector. That's what it's all about. Keep shining, Sarah. You're changing the world. Sarah read the comment multiple times, her eyes watering. She thought about that day in the cafeteria 6 months ago. How small and helpless she had felt. How desperately she had needed someone to save her. Vin had been that person for her. He had shown her what it meant to use your strength to protect others. Now she was doing the same thing. The cycle of kindness and courage was continuing. She was no longer the victim in her story. She was becoming the hero in someone else's. Over the following weeks, Michael started coming to the support group meetings. He was quiet at first, mostly just listening, but gradually he opened up. He shared his experiences. He made friends with other students who understood. Sarah watched him slowly transform, just like she had transformed. Other students started reaching out to Sarah too. Younger kids who were being bullied. Students who wanted advice on how to stand up for themselves. Even a few former bullies who wanted to change their behavior. Sarah realized she had become a role model without even trying. She started thinking about the future differently too. Before, she had just been trying to survive each day. Now she was thinking about college, about careers, about how she could continue helping people. Maybe she would become a counselor like Mrs. Chen. Maybe she would work for an anti-bullying organization. Maybe she would become a teacher who created safe classrooms. Whatever she chose, Sarah knew one thing for certain. She would use her experience, her pain, and her strength to make the world better. She would be the person she had needed when she was at her lowest. She would be the voice for students who had not found their voice yet. Spring turned to summer, and Sarah finished her freshman year strong. She had joined 3 clubs. She had made honor roll. She had real friends who supported her. Her relationship with her mom was stronger than ever. She was taking self-defense classes and getting physically stronger. She was mentally tougher too, able to handle stress and setbacks that would have broken her a year ago. On the last day of school, Sarah walked through the hallways one final time before summer break. She thought about how different everything looked now compared to the beginning of the year. These halls had once felt like a battlefield, dangerous and unpredictable. Now they just felt like halls, normal, safe, home. She passed the cafeteria where it had all happened, where Tyler had grabbed her backpack, where Vin Diesel had appeared like a guardian angel, where her life had changed forever. Sarah smiled, gripping the straps of that same worn blue backpack. A younger student approached her nervously. "Are you Sarah?" the girl asked. She looked like she was maybe in 7th grade. "Yes, that's me," Sarah said. "I just wanted to say thank you," the girl said quickly. "I saw what you did for Michael, and what you've been doing in the support group. I was thinking about hurting myself because of bullying, but your story made me realize I could get help instead. So thank you. You kinda saved my life." The girl walked away before Sarah could respond, disappearing into the crowd of students heading toward summer vacation. Sarah stood there, frozen, tears streaming down her face. Happy tears, grateful tears, purposeful tears. She had not just survived her own story. She had helped others survive theirs. She had turned her pain into power, her suffering into strength, her victimhood into victory, and she was just getting started. As Sarah walked out of Lincoln High School that day, backpack on her shoulders and head held high, she knew one thing absolutely. She was not the same girl who had started freshman year scared and alone. She was not the victim from that viral video. She was Sarah, survivor, friend, protector, hero, and she could not wait to see what happened next.